Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another Riverside Ramble. Once again, we are joined by someone who spends an awful lot of time on rivers, so I dare say you're probably closer to a river than I am right now, Heidi. So let me introduce Heidi Walsh, international kayak athlete, and just all-round excellent human being. Heidi, who are you? Where are you from? Where are you right now? And what do you do?
Great questions. My name's Heidi, and I'm roughly 200 meters from a river right now.
You win.
I
You win.
am from Watford, North London, and I'm currently living in Ottawa. I'm on a 2-year Canadian visa, and I'm working for Ottawa Kayak School. So I just finished my day teaching somebody freestyle kayaking and showing them down the river, and now I'm here.
Incredible. That sounds like living the dream. I think probably lots of kayakers would consider.
Yep.
Does it feel like living the dream?
It depends on a day-to-day basis. Depends what I'm teaching, what I'm coaching, what the weather's doing, how tired I am.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I get to do really fun kayaking every day, and there's not much else I'd rather be doing. When I coach keeners, it for sure is living the dream every single day.
Awesome. So for those that don't know, Keena's.
It is I would argue, the best youth freestyle course in the world. And it's a 3-week program based on the Ottawa River with some of the best kayakers in the world. Stephen Wright heads it up, but you'll have guest coaches like Benny Marr, Clay Wright, Dane sometimes comes along. I'm on it this summer, so a bit of a downgrade.
I mean, the fact that you could put your name in that list is pretty cool.
It's wild, isn't it? Yeah, it's definitely a pinch me moment. But we teach them everything. We teach them freestyle. We teach them to race. We swim rapids. We do safety skills.
Incredible.
It's just a lot of fun for 3 weeks. Yeah.
That sounds sick. Okay, so you're in Ottawa at the moment for the foreseeable future. How many countries have you visited thus far this year?
This year, I started the year in Mexico.
Okay.
And then I went up to America, and then I started in the southeast, and then I went out west, and then I went to Cali. So I would argue, although it's only one country, being America,
you've hopped around.
The country's huge.
Yeah.
So that's like at least 3 different countries right there.
For sure.
Up to Canada, to BC, up into the west, and then I drove from BC over to Ottawa to go to work.
You drove that?
I drove that, and I went via Idaho. So I did a North Fork lap en route, and then I went to Colorado, did GoPro Mountain Games, and then I went all the way east again.
Unreal. That sounds incredible. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Okay, harder question, follow-up. Can you estimate, or do you know, how many rivers this year so far?
This year, I can actually give you an exact number.
Oh yes, please.
Hold on 1 second. I'm such a nerd. I write everything down.
No, this is good. I'm the same. It's good.
2024 so far, I've done 128 days on the river, which is actually less than usual. But I found that with creeking, I have to take days off. Whereas freestyle, you can just do an hour and call it a day on the river.
Yeah, so totally.
Less days, but I've done 40
less days, but fuller days.
Rivers. Yeah, bigger days. Yeah. 43 rivers and 36 personal first descents.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it says 5 countries too. I didn't realize that. What? No. Oh yeah, I guess it is actually.
That is phenomenal. Wow. Yeah. Okay, so and this is like just over halfway through the year.
Yeah, last year I did about 270.
Okay. Yeah. That is nuts. Okay, so this is something that's, I suppose, relatively new to you in the sense that you haven't been doing full-time kayaking, exclusively full-time kayaking, for, you've only been doing that for a few years, is that right?
Yeah.
How does that number compare to what you were doing beforehand?
It's a lot bigger.
Yeah.
A lot bigger. But again, it depends on what you're doing. If you're having huge days, then you're going to do less days because it's demanding, and you're going to get injured if you do like as many as like 300 freestyle sessions is easy, but 300 days class 5 creeking is like a totally different story.
It's going to ruin your body.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that's interesting. So for those that maybe don't know, what was the kind of big decision, or what was the process, and when did it happen of being like, right, I'm gonna go for this?
I think it's something that I've always wanted to do. Ever since I started kayaking, I was like, this is it. It's game over. My life is over. All I want to do is go kayaking. And then I went to university. I got my degree. And then I did a year in Colorado. I did like an exchange. And that was my first taste of like traveling to paddle.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, this is pretty sweet.
That was that 2018? Is that right?
Yeah, 2018, okay. 19. We met on the green.
I was going to say, you came out to the green. I was out there training, and you came out and did the green race on your third lap. Was the green race itself?
Third or fourth. It was bad. It was a mistake. But we live and learn.
That was like, to me, looking at from the outside, I was like, there's something very, very stable and strong mentally going on there, if nothing else.
Yeah, not much else, but I really like kayaking.
But you smashed it. I mean, yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and then I guess I went home, COVID happened, I graduated, and then I was kind of let free in the real world, and I didn't have to do anything, and I was like, oh, hey, I tried a few jobs, I did the full-time thing for a little bit, and then I realized that I just want to go kayaking, and that's kind of it for me, nothing more, nothing less, and so I just went and I tried to see how it goes, and how many years on, I'm still doing it, so it's going okay.
That's very cool, very, very cool. Could you share maybe just like what's an average day, and maybe share what have been some standout days?
An average day depends on the time of the year for me. So an average day in summer will be working on the river, followed by working in the evening doing something else, just to try and work as hard as I can, earn as much money as I can. But I'll always make sure that I kayak that day. Okay. But it will be more chill kayaking, more training. And then in the off season, an average day will be going kayaking, but it will be in like way cooler places. Not that the Otter's not cool, but just different places. Yeah. It will be exploring, it will be harder kayaking, and then standout days will be like the really big days, the big scary days, the waterfall days, or the race days, or the big stout days.
Yeah. Well, I'll cut in some clips here you very helpfully sent over. You're talking about waterfall days. Mamquam, I have stood on the lip of that waterfall, and I've slept near it and heard it rumbling in the night, but did not have the skill or bravery or any of the required things at the time. What was that like? Talk us through the build up to that, I suppose, or the preparation for it, and then the going through with it, because the line is lovely, and the little magical paddle retrieval at the end as well. Just
that was yes, there was definitely some river gods on my side when the paddle came back. Okay, so I would say it all started this winter. I had a really big waterfall season. I started in Mexico, and then I did some big drops there, and then I went to Washington and did a lot more big drops. I did a lot of falling, and Mamquam was like, it had been on my list for years, but I've never had the experience or the skill set, like you said, to fire it up. But I was finding that I was getting pretty good at waterfalls and was getting pretty comfortable at tall heights. And I was up there, and I ended up looking at it for 4 or 5 days. It was way too high when I first got there. But if you know Mamquam, you'll know that like there's a big bowl after the waterfall, and then it constricts right down.
Yeah.
And when it's really high, the drop itself looks like good. It rolls, and like a lot of water. It's like fluffy but rowdy.
Yeah.
but it's the exit that
It's got
just
a cauldron.
completely impossible to run when it's high. So I looked at it and I was like, yes. And then I looked at the bottom and I was like, oh. And all the locals were telling me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So I was like, okay. So I went back every single day, and every day for 4 days it was dropping, but just not enough. And I was running out of days, which, kids, is not a reason to run something because you're there. But I was running out of days, and it was getting progressively lower. And I thought, it looks good to me. It was on the high side, the very high side. It's maybe, I think it's either me or Dan have one of the highest descents of it.
Okay.
It was very high, but it was manageable. We set really good safety. And I thought that day was my day. And I was pretty happy to fire it up, and it went well. So it's all good.
That's cool. Yeah. Wow. I suppose sometimes it is one of those things of you have to make a judgment call on the day. Well, you always have to make a judgment call on the day, don't you? But you make a judgment based on the safety you're able to set and the conditions on the day. That's cool. Wow. You were saying in the summer you're working hard. You're kayaking during the day, but you're also working in the evenings.
Yeah.
Do you find that as someone who is a full-time kayaker, you nonetheless have to work around the kayaking?
Yeah, I think if you say you're a pro kayaker, unless you're sponsored by Red Bull or GoPro or some big outside of kayaking league,
yeah,
the likelihood of you actually still working is quite high.
Yeah.
Most pro kayakers do some kind of work. So I kayak coach during the day, but I also bartend over here on site. And I really enjoy bartending. It's fast-paced and it's social, and it's a good way to hang out with everyone, but still feel relatively fresh the next day.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I do that as well.
Yeah. I suppose just trying to, like, I think you're really inspiring, and I think young people should look at you and be like, I'm getting into kayaking and I love kayaking and I want to do it as much as I possibly can. There's someone who has done it, but also present the reality of it. That you're working 2 jobs and it's probably quite hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Last week I averaged, I think I did 75 hours last week.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
yeah.
But it's like you can't complain about it because I worked for 3 months like an absolute dog, but then I go kayaking for whatever the rest of that is. So 8 or 9 months.
Yeah.
So.
That is very cool. Very cool. You were talking a little bit. I mean, you very briefly did a little aside of like, don't let time pressures or moving from one place to another pressure push you into doing something. Do you ever feel unhealthy pressures because of like the platform you have, because of social media, anything like that? That pressure of like, not the world is watching. Maybe that's too strong. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think I see it in other people. I think personally, no. I think I put enough pressure on myself, like my goals and what I want to achieve and everything like that is way higher than the pressure of social media or whatever. The whole reason I like social media is like a way to remember things, and I like it. It looks really pretty and I can make cool videos and I can share it with people, but I never think, oh, I need to run this for the Instagram, Good. That's not really my style. Yeah.
Good.
I do see it in other people, and I don't think it's a healthy way to do it because you're just making bad decisions. If you're thinking, oh, this will get lots of views, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's tricky, isn't it? We can't, you can't detach where we are sort of in history from the technology that we have. Like you couldn't be like, oh, it would be nice if we had the kayaking technology that we have, but no social. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Had a lot of people.
Do you wonder what that would do? I wonder what that would do to kayaking generally if just we didn't know what everyone else around the world was doing. You just cracked on.
Yeah, I think we're definitely in the age of people pushing harder and harder and harder. And I think the internet plays a big part in that.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of people say, if the cameras weren't there, would you do it regardless? Which is an interesting thing to think about. And for me, I would still be doing it. But honestly, I would be sad if I didn't have the footage to watch it back afterwards. I think it's nice, and there's no shame in that.
No, definitely. Yeah.
But, it's like, if somebody told me don't post it, I would still do it because I love it. I would just be a bit sad that I can't show people.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think, again, there's that element of actually showing what you're doing and sharing, I suppose, hopefully a bit like this as well, sharing a little bit of your process behind things. That can only produce good results, I would say. People are going to look at that and be like, oh, okay, this is not just an adrenaline sport in the sense of adrenaline fueled.
Yeah.
Jamie and I in the previous ramble, we touched a little bit on this idea that actually when you're initially getting into kayaking, it is very much adrenaline fueled, and the longer you do it, the more it becomes. Your adrenaline spikes when you are like worried. Like when stuff has gone wrong and you're correcting, and it becomes much more about Jamie called it the joy of skillful movement, and I thought that's such a great phrase, of like actually you're just taking joy in accomplishing, like that flow state feeling of my body is doing what it's meant to be doing in this moment, and I can tell because of all of the sensory feedback that's coming into me. Like that's, I don't know, for me that's where it's at. And then all of the social aspect and all of the environmental aspect of being able to be out in creation and enjoying it. Like that's, to me, now what kayaking is about. And it's no longer that adrenaline fueled thing. But I think so rarely is that the picture that's painted to the world.
Yeah, it's so true. I love that, and I completely agree with it. It's interesting, actually. You asked for the man-cam shot, but I personally wasn't that satisfied with it. I didn't find like the adrenaline rush or the joy of flow state is a way better way of putting it.
Yeah.
I actually found on Money Drop in Washington,
Okay.
I had the biggest rush and the biggest relief and like just a huge adrenaline rush. But actually what it was I had the perfect line. Everything went great. Like life slowed down. You get that flow state where you can I paint that picture in my head and it's still there super vividly. And it was all perfect. And then afterwards I was like, yeah, screaming and whooping and celebrating as you do, like an idiot. I found less so because I wasn't that satisfied with my line.
Okay.
I found it could have been better. It was a bit scrappy. I didn't get that flow state. And although it was taller and bigger and stouter and whatever, all of the things that people love to see, I didn't find it nearly as satisfying as other drops that I've done before.
Do you think that accessing a flow state on a waterfall is harder? Like this has just come into my head. It's because it's a short span of time that you're actually keyed into your boat and doing a thing.
Yeah.
Would you say that kind of getting to that state? I don't know. Instinctively, my brain is like, well, surely that's harder because it's a smaller span of time.
It's true.
Do you think that's true?
I don't. I think for me it's easier because it's so high consequence and it's such a one moment, everything matters all in that 1 second.
Yeah.
So you have to tap in and be on it. Whereas in like rapids and stuff, you've got a long period of time, you've got lots of moves, and you can get into flow state in that for sure. But you've got a lot more to think about, many more moves to do. It's a longer period of time. I think personally, I struggle to get into flow state more for the rivers than I do the drops.
Really? Okay. Interesting. Because in my head, I'm like grade 4 Boulder Garden, Like, give me 15
Yeah.
give me 15 miles of grade 4 boulder garden, and I'll just be like, ooh, yeah, I'm having a great time.
Yeah, different strokes for different folks.
That's it.
That's
Yeah.
what I've learned. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, epic. So yeah, you kind of came up in freestyle kayaking. Is that fair to say?
Yep, I learned everything in a playboat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you say that is still something that is a big drive for you? Competitive freestyle as well as just being in a playboat?
I think the goals have shifted for sure. I learned everything in a freestyle kayak, so therefore the natural progression was GB freestyle, youth freestyle, competitions, events, all of that stuff. When I was at university, I drove to Nottingham almost every single day, and I did techie freestyle sessions. I did video review. I looked back at it. I did comp prize. I did team trials. I did worlds or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That was my life.
Yeah.
Whereas now I've discovered the world of the real river and the adventure and the big boats, and there's so much that you can do in a kayak that isn't competing.
Yeah.
And I've said it a lot this year, actually. I've noticed that I've got better at freestyle for creeking, and I've got better at competing for creeking, and my love of being in a boat has shifted entirely. I just love to go kayaking now. And the result has ended up being so much better than when I was just doing techie freestyle sessions. I still enjoy competing, but it's not the be all and end all, which is, I think, also super important for mindset, because then you don't have those pressures on yourself. You see a lot of freestyle kayakers just kind of blow up because that's all they've got. And then if they don't perform in those 45 seconds, one day of the year, life is over and it sucks, which is just not fair. So I found that I've enjoyed it a lot more. And now when I get in a playboat, it's way more fun because I don't do it year round and it's not a techie session and I'm playing around and suddenly I'm like, oh, hey, I can lunar now. That's weird. I could never do that when I was actually training for freestyle.
Yeah.
So
gosh, that is fascinating, isn't it?
It's wild.
That's so cool. What a testament to the value of being cross-disciplinary as well.
Yeah.
Like,
I scored my highest ever freestyle ride this spring after 3 days of training and creeking since last year. I hadn't whole boated in like a year, 2 years, a year and a half. It was insane.
That's
and I was just like, wow, I'm so snappy and I can do freestyle and this is fun and I'm having a great time and oh, hey, look at my score.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's probably tricky to answer this. How much of that do you think you would attribute to that psychological holding it lightly?
Quite a lot, I think. Yeah, I do really well with pressure on me, but it's a different kind of pressure. I find that from creeking, it's real pressure. You know, it's high consequence. It's scary.
Yes.
Whereas freestyle pressure is like, you know, if you mess up, you're fine. But it's pressure on yourself and it's pressure on you and your abilities, and it can put you in a bit of a bad mental game.
Yeah.
Whereas I got so used to the class 5 pressure of the like, okay, now it's time to switch on. Yeah. You don't have a choice. Then going from that, sitting in a freestyle kayak in the eddy and being like, okay, now it's time to switch on. You have to, instead of saying to yourself, oh, I have to be really good, otherwise I'm bad at kayaking. It's a different kind of pressure.
Yeah, you're not making it personal. You're just you're recognizing the environment and consequence.
You're just go time, and you get used to turning it on and turning it off. And I found that was super useful.
Yeah, but presumably you find that there must be an overlap there then when you are, for example, racing class 5.
Yeah. It's very similar. I think it would be, again, sitting in an eddy and having that chat to yourself, doing that at a number of world championships in freestyle, and then sitting in an eddy in a creek. You still have the exact same chat, so you still have that experience. You know what's up.
Yeah.
Super useful.
Yeah, that's cool. And this may just be me being wrong, but Strava has told me that you have been putting down segments like everywhere you've gone. Like when you were in Washington, it seemed like every day it was like Heidi set the record for Little White XYZ. So presumably something in that not just the fact that you were there consistently daily, day in day out, but something in that mindset enables you to push hard and to go fast.
Maybe. I would actually argue that Strava, not many kayakers use Strava, and even less female kayakers use Strava. So when it's
sure.
It's like, oh, congratulations, you beat one person, and then Nuria turns up, and then it's just game over.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I do find I'm a nerd. I write everything down. I record it all. I like to watch my footage back. I like to see the mess ups. I like to see what went great. I like to learn from it. I very much like paddling with purpose and trying to be better every time I go kayaking.
That's really cool. What is your process then for analysing video of yourself? Because it's one thing filming it and looking at it and going, "Oh, that doesn't look good," but then it's another thing looking at it and going, "That element is the problem," or "That's what needs to shift or improve." Like, what's your approach?
I really like to compare my footage to other people's. If you know there are people nailing their lines, you can watch yours and you can run it back with somebody else's, and you can figure out what they're doing and why it's working. But honestly, I just ask everyone. I always try and paddle with people who are better than me, and I surround myself by good people. I found that this spring, Leif and Natalie were unreal. They were my neighbours, and I went to their house after the Little White race. They watched my footage back. They showed me all of the things that I could have done better. Just asking your friends who have more experience is like clutch, because sometimes it's not what you're doing, but a way somebody explains it, and everyone explains things slightly differently. So if you ask 5 people the same question, it might not click with 4 of them, and then you've got this one person that just says something that's like gold dust, and you're like, oh my god, I never thought of that. That's amazing. And then suddenly something switches in your brain and you've got it.
That is so good. So you're self-reflecting, but then you're also, I don't know what that would be. It's not just peer reflection, is it? But it's like expert
It's like asking for coaching.
Yeah, it's like personal expert advice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And I think that's really valuable to say, like, surround yourself with people.
Yeah. If you can paddle with people that bring you up, it's the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
I often struggled to afford coaching. Like a lot of freestyle kayakers have a coach and they work with them. I struggled with that, but I'm like, my best mate is Alan Ward, who always helped me just because we were mates. And if you can just be a good human and surround yourself with good kayakers. Kayakers are great. Everyone wants to help out everyone.
Yeah.
So just do that.
Yeah. That's some great advice. Really good. That's cool. So at the moment you are you're working with presumably a lot of fairly talented young kayakers, many of whom might have aspirations to do what you do. What would be your advice to someone who's, say, like 16 to 18 and is considering this lifestyle?
Yeah. I would say make sure you enjoy every day on the water. You've got to love it, because nobody's telling you to do this. It's got to be for you. Work hard. Don't take yourself too seriously either. Nobody likes a hotshot kayaker. Just go kayaking because you love it.
Yeah.
And good things will happen. it always works out if you just do what you love every day. But if you focus too much on like the Instagram, the videos, the sponsorship, if you do it for the deals and not for the love, you might burn out quite quickly.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, we're a very small sport and there's no fame and glory. And the only way to keep your heart full is to just love going kayaking.
Yeah, totally. And how do you do that? What priorities are you setting to enable you to love every day?
I don't know. I think I just have a tiny brain. Simple mind.
Well, that's refreshingly honest.
I just really like it.
Sorry, that's me being like, well, there's got to be some philosophical reason
One of
here.
those secrets.
Mining for gold here. The gold is tiny brains, kids.
Yeah, tiny brain cells. But if you ever get bored, switch it up. Like, if you do the same thing every day, it's going to get boring. If you're in a playboat every day, get in a creek boat. If you're in a creek boat every day, get in a half slice. If you've done all of the things, go hand paddling. If you've done all of the things, swim down your local whitewater course. If you've done all of the things, I don't know, do more things. Encourage your friends. Just mix it up. Keep it fresh. Just be very silly. Don't take yourself too seriously. Find the fun, not the training.
That is excellent advice. Excellent advice. Very good advice. Well, that is some excellent advice, I think, to round out with. But maybe as a final thing, could you share? I know you talked about some like top days. Could you share, if you've got one, your best day of kayaking this year? What did it look like?
That's like the hardest.
Is this the hardest question ever?
Ask me that. That's hard. Oh man. Something in Washington. I had some of my favorite times in the gorge. It's gotta be just like, there were some real days where I just loved going kayaking, and I'd start in the morning with a truss lap, and then I'd meet people in the car park and they'd be like, do you want to go for a lap? And I'd be like, kind of tired. And they'd be like, nah, don't be silly. And then we'd go for a little white lap and I'd be like, okay, go on then. And then we'd finish that, and then I'd meet another crew in the car park and they'd be like, Heidi, let's go kayaking. And I'd be like, oh, I'm really tired at this point. And then I'm like, okay. And just like joy laps. And I guess some of the stouter days of my favorites would be Money Drop is a big highlight for me. The Agua Azul in Mexico was a huge day.
Yeah. That
one was mega stout and fun, and there was a great crew, and it was a giant adventure. I don't know. Lots of standouts, but
I mean, if you kayak that much, I imagine it's probably hard to find single days. But I don't know. I'm encouraged by the fact that your answer is not necessarily the stoutest.
No,
you know what I mean? Like,
my favorite days are the days where I just endlessly go kayaking, and I get home and I'm so pooped that I've just done way more kayaking than I anticipated to do that day, and like life just sent me on a path of all of the kayaking.
Excellent. Oh, well, that is incredibly cool. Very, very inspiring. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you so much for sharing your time. Really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
And your little pearls of wisdom as well in there. And very much inspiring stuff. So thank you so much. Thank you everyone for tuning in. And if you're enjoying this, then do remember to share it and drop a like down below and comment, etc., etc. All of those things. Perhaps comment somebody that you think I should interview next time. And I'll do my best to get onto that. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.